Our next speaker, he is a cybersecurity expert with over 12 years experience in the field. He currently is the sales engineering team lead at CrowdStrike Meta. He ran multiple large-scale projects and 2 major from-the-ground implementation of leading security operation center in the GCC. Let's all welcome Mr. Roland Daccache, who will be speaking about cybercrime trends in 2019 Spider Tales. Welcome.
So today's session is going to be 20 minutes of overview of what's happening specifically in the financial crime world. We all know about APTs and nation-state attackers, etc. However, what we sometimes miss is that more than 60% of the attacks are not designed or run by nation-state attackers. They are run by groups that are targeting financial crime and financial gain. So 60% of breaches globally are not reported. It means that probably 60% of organizations are either too afraid to speak up when they get hacked, or they simply don't know about it. In the 2019 CrowdStrike Global Threat Report, the stats show that more than 60% of the attacks did not deploy any malware at all. So how can we stop attackers who do not use malware? Is our firewall able to stop them? Is our AV able to stop these attackers? Very unlikely. So what can we do about it? How can we protect ourselves against more than half of the attacks that are happening globally? Why do attackers choose to go malware-free? It's simple. It's to avoid detection. It's to evade IDSs and firewalls and sandboxes. It's to act as a legitimate user, compromising credentials, moving around laterally in the network, stealing data, compromising it, ransomware infections, crypto mining. You know how difficult it is today to stop a crypto mining infection in your environment? I would argue that more than 50% of organizations have crypto mining activities in one form or the other that they are not aware of. Specifically moving into the financial services industry. The slide on the right shows us that it's not about malware anymore. You see all these legitimate tools like Nmap, PSExec, ProcDump, etc. They are being used to penetrate networks, to steal data, to infect them. PowerMaze, the very famous North Korean DPRK tool, definitely one of the most difficult types of malware infections that you can try to stop. Turla, for example. And what does this slide tell us? It tells us that we're probably looking in the wrong direction when we are trying to stop attackers. We are trying to fingerprint malware and files. What we should be doing is fingerprinting attackers, APTs, and e-crime groups, understand how they work in order to be able to stop them. The slide on the left shows us that many of the financial services infections are actually state-sponsored. So APT groups from China, from Russia, from North Korea are today involved in cybercrime for financial gain. You know how much North Korea made of cybercrime last year? It's in billions of dollars. What this shows us is that at the end of the day, it's about the money. And if you look at Venomous Bear or Stardust Colima, these are very well known in the APT world and the nation-state world. They made their share of financial gain. Fingerprinting attackers, fingerprinting APT groups. That's what we do at CrowdStrike. So we look at the behavior of specific APT groups, trying to understand their modus operandi, their techniques, tactics, and procedures. So from Stardust Colima in North Korea, who created the infamous PowerMaze implant, to Unit Spider, who are very famous in credential harvesting, infecting your domain controllers, your AD directories, etc. To Venomous Bear, the famous APT group from Russia, who have created the VirtualBox exploit that infected tens of thousands of customers globally. The key takeaway from this slide is that unless you are fingerprinting the attackers and understanding how they work, how they operate, you are going to be infected. You are going to be compromised. So let's give you a glance of what our threat intelligence team is tracking recently, specifically in the financial sector. CrowdStrike is deployed in 10 of the world's top 20 banks. This gives us an unequal view into the most famous APT groups in the financial sector field, like Indrik Spider, behind Drydex, the nightmare of financial institutions. Or Mummy Spider, the creators of Emotet. Emotet is probably the most famous banking Trojan that has thousands of different shapes and signatures that is almost impossible to stop with a signature or with a behavioral rule. Skeleton Spider, the APT group operating from East Europe behind Trinity, and the framework POS that infects ATM machines, point-of-sale machines. Wizard Spider, they've been operating for many years. They shut down, they disappear, then they reappear again with the thought brick, with the trick loader. Again, another financial APT group that is very difficult to track and stop. Carbon Spider, behind the infamous Carbonac and Fin7 infections. Bamboo Spider, behind the Panda Zeus. We've heard the name Panda Zeus for the last probably 7 or 8 years, and it is still there. And if you have DNS security tools in your environment, they probably remind you about Panda Zeus every once in a while. Without spending too much time on dissecting what every APT group is doing, the key takeaway is that most of them are operating from East Europe. Most of them have a well-established business model where if you go underground in the dark web, you can trade and purchase their tools and their tradecraft. Therefore, they are very difficult to fingerprint. It's not always the case when we find a Nemotet infection that the infecting group is Mummy Spider. This tool is being sold and traded on the dark web. So you need to have a cutting-edge threat intelligence capability in order to be able to understand your adversary and in order to be able to stop them. Other few examples like Tiny Spider and Mummy Spider, basically we see that they target customers from the financial sector and the retail sector specifically across the globe. So everyone is a potential target. Regardless whether you're in the Americas or in Europe or in APJ or in the Middle East, you are a potential target if you are a financial institution or trade with any form of financial transactions. The attack techniques, we see that malware is taking a backseat today. We see that the percentage of infections that actually leverage malware is dropping year after year. What's taking its place? It's simple. Living off the land tools, credential dumping, AD compromise, PowerShell, CMD, tools like Nmap, even tools like Nessus, etc., that are being used to scan the environment, and they provide a wealth of data to attackers. So what does this tell us? It tells us that if you are relying on a sandbox and on an AV product to protect you, you are exposed by at least a 50% percentage against all the attacks that do not trigger an AV alert, do not trigger an ADS alert. So Breakout time by region. I'm not sure if you're familiar with our threat intelligence naming convention, but in a nutshell, bears operate from Russia, Kolimas from North Korea, pandas from China, kirins from Iran. And what this tells us is, regardless of the fact that Russians are the fastest, if you are a state-sponsored APT group, so spiders is everyone involved in financial crime. If you are a state-sponsored APT group involved in financial crime, you become much stealthier and much faster. So if you operate on your own, your average to penetrate an environment is probably 10 hours, which would alert your SOC team, which would alert your MDR service, etc. If you are state-sponsored, you are able to penetrate a network, in the case of North Korea, for example, in under 2.5 hours. So this gives the attackers a massive advantage to go undetected. And this is what we see in the field. Dissecting mummy spider. Mummy spider behind the Emotet tool. We now see that all the APT groups on the dark web are operating together as a community, sharing intelligence, sharing detection reports. So to see if I have few Bitcoins to spend, I want to target a specific organization, I do not have to reinvent the wheel. I do not have to open a C# and start writing malware. All what I need to do is just spend some money, use tools that come with an SLA, like Emotet or Drydex or BitPaymer, etc., modify them a little bit to evade detection, and target any organization of my choice. Given enough money, enough time, we can all be victims. And unless we are tracking our adversaries, we are always few steps behind. How do we know this? How did we show you these stats and these reports? CrowdStrike collects 2 trillion events every week from tens of millions of endpoints and sensors globally. That makes it the largest EDR database in the world. What do we do with this massive amount of data? We do data science and analytics? Obviously, yes. The differentiator is that we enrich this data with our threat intelligence, with our world-leading threat intelligence capabilities. Our data science team runs algorithms that stop 50 million malicious files or malicious executions every minute in our customer environments. 50 million is a massive number. Our threat intel team tracks 120 APT groups globally and growing. So we keep an eye on the adversary, on the attacker. We look in the right direction. At the end of the day, no malware writes itself. Malware and malicious infections are written by human beings targeting us, and we are after these guys. These bad guys, obviously. So what this delivers to our customers is survival of the fastest. What does this mean? According to our 2019 stats, if you do not respond to an attack or a breach within 1 hour, it's probably too late. Your domain controllers might be fully compromised. Your database servers might be fully owned. You will no longer be able to trust your assets or your data. So what can I do to stop these attackers or these bad guys? I just need to be much quicker. I need to review all my SOC and incident response processes to confirm that I can detect a threat within few minutes, that I have the right tools at my disposal to review the attack and to be able to contain it, remediate the infection, respond to the compromise in less than an hour. How many organizations can achieve these metrics? Less than 10%. This gives you an idea that regardless of the fact that we spend millions of dollars per year to maintain SOCs, they are still not very efficient at stopping advanced adversaries. So again, we need to review our metrics. We need to do a better job in improving our detection and our response speed, we need to understand the fact that behind every attack, there is a human adversary that we need to keep an eye on. They are capable of changing signatures. They are capable of changing their techniques, tactics, and procedures. So we need to adapt. We need to respect the fact that the cyber playing field has changed, and we need to up the game in order to stop these attackers. So how do we help our customers achieve these metrics? We believe in one agent, one console philosophy at CrowdStrike. So we do provide our customers with agents that they can deploy within few seconds on their endpoints, regardless whether they have an existing AV or an existing endpoint protection tool in their environment. And we provide them with the power of one console that provides you next-gen AV capabilities that is fully based on machine learning and artificial intelligence, that has completely ditched the concept of signatures towards the concept of behavioral indicators of attack. We also give you immediate visibility into your environment. So what are my assets? What assets are protected versus what assets are not? What are the running applications and application versions in my environment? Am I running outdated code? Am I running outdated versions of specific software? Do I have too many admin accounts, too many local or domain accounts that are prone to compromise, to data theft, etc.? We enrich this with the only platform in the world that delivers threat intel feeds from our cloud straight to the endpoint with no middleman, with no need to have a tip or a SIM in between to deliver these IOCs, these hashes, these URLs, domains, IP addresses, etc. If you've been following what Gartner, Forrester, or IDC are saying lately, we are now recognized as a leader with the highest completeness of vision in the endpoint protection world. Why? Because the market is starting to believe in our message that we need to revamp the way we secure endpoints. We started participating in Gartner Endpoint Protection 3 years ago, and in our very short journey, we are now among vendors who've been in the space for 20 years or so. So talk about a market disruptor. You have a name now, CrowdStrike. Forrester, the same feedback from customers, from community, a leader in the EDR space. I invite you to visit so many other third-party reviews of our technology. I invite you to visit our page where you see live customer references, including customers from the Middle East who provide the best testimony in the world around our technology. So we are here to help you stop the breaches. I hope you enjoyed my session, and I hope I can take some of your questions now or offline. Thank you.